The coyote's voice came from three different directions at once. I need to be clear about what I do. I guide people across the border. Been doing it for 8 years. Some people call us coyotes. Some call us smugglers. Some call us human traffickers. I call it survival. The people I guide call it hope. This isn't about politics or morality. This is about what happened in the Sonoran Desert in October of 2019 and why I don't take groups through the Altar Valley anymore. My name is Javier Ortiz. I'm 31 years old. I was born in Nogales, Sonora, and I know the desert between Mexico and Arizona better than anyone alive. I know which arroyos flood in monsoon season, which border patrol shift changes happen when, which ranches have motion sensors, and which ones just have cameras on timers. I know where the water caches are, which trails the other coyotes use, and how to read the sky for helicopters 15 minutes before they arrive. I've guided maybe 200 people across, families mostly, some young men looking for work, a few women running from bad situations. I don't take cartel. I don't take anyone carrying more than personal use amounts of anything illegal. I charge 3,000 American dollars per person, which is about average, and I've never lost anyone until that night. The group was small, 5 people, two brothers from Guerrero, Samuel and Tomas, early 20s, a woman named Rosa from Oaxaca, maybe 40, trying to get to her daughter in Phoenix, an older man, Hector, 60-something, grandfather type, wanted to see his grandkids before he died, and a younger guy, quiet, called himself Luis, but I don't think that was his real name, mid-20s, wearing clothes too nice for a border crossing. He paid in cash, crisp hundreds, didn't ask questions. We met at a safe house in Alter, Sonora on October 18th, 2019. The plan was simple. Cross at night through the Alter Valley, moving northwest toward the Babo Quiviri Mountains. 3 nights of walking, staying in washes during the day, reaching the pickup point near 3 Points, Arizona. I'd done this exact route maybe 30 times. I laid out the rules in the safe house kitchen. Everyone sitting on plastic chairs, drinking water, checking their shoes. You do exactly what I say when I say it. I told them in Spanish. If I say stop, you stop. If I say run, you run. If I say hide, you get flat in the dirt and you don't move until I come back for you. Understand? Everyone nodded. You stay together. No one walks ahead of me. No one falls behind. If you need to rest, you tell me. If your feet hurt, you tell me. If you see something, anything, you tell me immediately. What kind of something? Samuel asked. He was the younger brother. Nervous energy, kept fidgeting. Border patrol, ranchers, drones, other groups, animals, anything that's not supposed to be there. What about other things? This from Luis, the quiet one. He was watching me carefully. What other things? You know what things? The desert has stories. I had heard the stories. Every coyote has. Groups that vanish. Guides who come back alone with no memory of what happened. Things that follow you just outside your flashlight beam. Old ranchers will tell you about skinwalkers if you buy them enough mezcal. Shapeshifters, witches, Navajo legends that drifted south into Yaqui and Tohono O'odham territory. I didn't believe in that shit. The desert has snakes, scorpions, heat, and border patrol. I said, those are the things that'll kill you, not stories. We left Alter at dusk. My truck took us 20 miles west to a drop point near a dried creek bed. I gave everyone a final check. Good shoes, broken in, dark clothing, 1 liter of water each, plus I carried 3 more gallons in my pack. Protein bars, small flashlights, red lenses only. No phones, those stay off or get left behind. Luis had an iPhone in his pocket. Offer buried, I said. I need it. You need Border Patrol tracking you. He powered it down, but he kept it. I should have made him leave it. We started walking at 8:45 p.m. The temperature was dropping fast. Desert autumn, probably 60 degrees. Perfect conditions. Clear sky, half moon, rising. Enough light to see the ground, not enough to make us visible from a distance. The terrain was standard Sonoran, creosote bush, ocotillo, scattered saguaro, patches of cholla that'll tear your skin open if you brush against them, sandy soil, loose rock, occasional arroyos cutting through. The border fence was 3 miles north. We'd cross at a section where it transitioned from vehicle barrier to wire fence, cut through, move fast through the sensor zone, then northwest into the wilderness. Everyone kept pace. Rosa was tough, moved like someone who'd worked fields her whole life. Hector was slower but steady. The brothers stuck together, Tomas helping Samuel when he stumbled. Luis walked like he was thinking about something else, distracted, checking behind us every few minutes. You expecting someone? I asked him. No. Then eyes forward. We reached the fence at 10:30. I'd cut this section a week earlier, replaced the wire with ties that looked intact but pulled apart easy. Standard practice, saves time, reduces noise. I pulled the section open and everyone slipped through, single file, quiet. That's when I first heard it. A voice, distant, coming from the south, back toward Mexico. My voice, calling out, stay together, keep moving. Everyone froze. That's you, Samuel whispered. No, it's not. I'm right here. But it sounds exactly move now. We went through the fence. I replaced the ties, made it look untouched, and we pushed north at double pace. You move fast through the sensor zone, motion detectors, ground sensors, cameras. Border Patrol monitors the feeds, but they're watching hundreds of miles of border. You move quick and quiet, and you're usually fine. The voice came again, closer this time. If you need to rest, tell me. My exact words from the safe house. Same inflection, same accent. It was coming from the west now, parallel to us. Javier, what is that? Rosa's voice was shaking. I don't know. Keep walking. Is it Border Patrol? Border Patrol doesn't do that. Then what does? I didn't answer because I didn't have one. We cleared the sensor zone and entered the wilderness. The landscape opened up, rolling desert, scattered vegetation, mountains in the distance. I kept us moving northwest, using the stars and the terrain features I'd memorized. My phone stayed in my pocket, GPS off. I navigated by landmarks, a distinctive saguaro cluster, an arroyo bend, a rock formation that looks like a broken tooth. The voice kept pace, sometimes south of us, sometimes west, once, briefly, ahead, never close enough to see who or what was making it. It said things I'd said. You stay together. No one walks ahead of me. If you see something, tell me immediately. Like it was replying to itself, like it was practicing. Luis grabbed my arm. We need to turn back. We're 4 miles in. Turning back puts us in the sensor zone. Again. I know what that is. What? My grandmother's village in Chihuahua. They have stories, things that steal voices. Skinwalkers, nahuales. They learn how you sound, and they separate you, pick you off one by one. That's folklore. Then why is your voice out there and you're here? I didn't have an answer for that either. We kept moving. The moon was higher now, bright enough to see maybe 50 feet clearly. The desert was quiet, except for our footsteps and breathing. No crickets, no coyotes, the animal kind. No birds, just silence and that voice, circling. At midnight, we stopped in a deep wash to rest. Everyone sat against the sandy bank, drinking water, nobody talking. I climbed up to the edge and scanned the surroundings. Nothing, just creosote and cholla and empty desert. But the feeling, the weight, of being watched was so strong I could taste it. How much farther tonight? Hector asked. Another 2 miles, then we hole up until tomorrow night. Where? There's a cave system near a dried waterfall. Good cover, shade, defensible. Defensible from what? Samuel again. Heat. Sunday. Whatever. The voice came again, much closer. East of us now, maybe 100 yards. There's a cave system near a dried waterfall. Perfect mimicry. My cadence, my voice, even the slight rasp I get when I'm dehydrated. Tomas stood up. I see something. Where? There, by that tall cactus. I looked. A saguaro, maybe 30 feet tall, about 70 yards out. There was a shape next to it, human-sized, standing completely still. Is that a person? Rosa whispered. I pulled out my flashlight, white light, not red. I needed to see clearly. I clicked it on and aimed at the figure. It was wearing clothes like mine. Dark jacket, jeans, baseball cap. It was my height, my build. And when the light hit it, it turned its head toward us with a movement that was just slightly wrong. Too smooth, like it was on a swivel. Javier, it called out. My voice. Where did you go? Everybody up, I said quietly. We're moving. Now. We climbed out of the wash and headed northwest. Faster now. Not quite running, but close. The figure didn't follow. It just stood there, next to the saguaro, watching us leave. But 5 minutes later, the voice was back, this time from the north, ahead of us. Everybody up. We're moving. Using my words again. Luis was right. It was learning. We changed direction, angling more west, away from the voice. The terrain got rougher, more rock, less sand. We were moving into the foothills now, elevation rising gradually. My landmark cave was northeast, but I wasn't leading everyone toward a confined space with that thing circling us. Instead, I headed for a place I knew, an old rancher's line shack, abandoned since the 90s, sitting near a stock tank that sometimes held water. It had walls, a door, and it was in sight of a dirt road that Border Patrol used. Not ideal being near a patrol route, but better than being hunted in open desert. Javier. Rosa grabbed my sleeve. It's behind us. I turned. 3 shapes now, all standing in a line, maybe 50 yards back, all wearing dark jackets and baseball caps, all my height. The middle one waved. This is impossible, Tomas said. We need to pray, Hector said. He was already holding a rosary I hadn't seen before. We need to move, I said. We ran. Not a full sprint. You can't sustain that in desert terrain at night, but a hard jog, watching for holes and rocks and cactus. I led them through a gap between 2 low hills, then west along a ridgeline. My lungs burned, my legs burned, but I kept the pace. Behind us, I could hear footsteps, multiple sets, matching our rhythm. We ran for maybe 15 minutes before I saw the line shack. Small structure, maybe 12 by 12 feet, wood frame with corrugated metal roof, door hanging crooked on one hinge. One window, no glass. Inside, everyone. We piled in. I pulled the door shut. It didn't latch. The mechanism was broken, but it closed. The interior was dark, smelling of dust and rat droppings and old wood. I clicked on my flashlight. Empty. Dirt floor. Some old ranching equipment in the corner. Rusted tools. A broken chair. Everyone was gasping, bent over, hands on knees. What the fuck is that? Samuel's voice was high, panicked. I don't know. You said there was nothing out here but snakes and border patrol. I was wrong. Luis was looking out the window. They're coming. I moved next to him and looked. 4 figures now, walking toward the shack, in a line, evenly spaced, all identical, all me. Does that door lock? Rosa asked. No. Then what do? We wait. See what they do. See what they do? Javier. They're, I know what they are. The figures stopped about 20 yards from the shack, just stood there in a line, facing us. Moonlight behind them, features obscured by shadow and distance. Then the second one from the left spoke, my voice. Come out. It's safe now. Fuck you, I said. The one on the far right. We need to keep moving. The one on the far left. If you see something, tell me. The middle one. I've guided maybe 200 people across. That last one, I'd said that in the safe house hours ago. They were using everything I'd said, building sentences, learning context. They're trying to sound like you, Louise said, to confuse us, so we don't know which one is real. I'm real. I'm right here. I know. But do they know that? The figures stood there for maybe 5 minutes, not moving, just watching the shack. Then, simultaneously, they all turned and walked away, north, toward the mountains. We watched until they disappeared into the darkness. Are they gone? Rosa asked. I don't know. Should we run? Not yet. We wait until we're sure. We sat in that shack for 2 hours. I kept watch at the window, rotating with Tomas. The others tried to rest, but nobody slept. Hector prayed quietly, rosary beads clicking. Louise sat in the corner, staring at nothing. At 3 a.m., I made the call. We move, but we're changing the plan. What plan? Samuel asked. We're not going to the cave. We're heading east, back toward the border. You want us to go back to Mexico? No. There's a highway, State Route 86. It's about 5 miles east of here. We get there, we flag down a car, we take our chances with Border Patrol. I'd rather be in detention than dead. They'll deport us, Rosa said. They'll process you. You can try again. But we're not staying out here with those things. Nobody argued. We left the shack at 3:15 a.m. I led them east, moving through low arroyos, staying below the sight line of the ridges. The desert was still quiet, no voices, no footsteps, just us and the wind. We covered maybe 2 miles before I heard it again. Not my voice this time. Samuel's calling from somewhere south. Tomas, where are you? Tomas stopped dead. That's me. That's my brother's voice. Keep moving. Samuel, the voice again, closer. I can't find the group. I'm right here, Samuel shouted. Shut up, I hissed. Don't respond to it. Too late. From the west, Rosa's voice. Javier, did we lose someone? From the north, Hector's voice. I need to rest. From the east, Luis's voice. We should turn back. They had all of us now. Stay together, I said. Quiet, firm. Do not respond. Do not look for them. Eyes on me. Keep moving. We walked faster. The voices kept calling, overlapping, coming from different directions. Samuel's voice. Tomas, help me. I fell. Rosa's voice. I see the road. This way. Hector's voice. There's someone behind us. Luis's voice. Javier's gone. We're on our own. And then my voice, directly ahead of us. Stop. Everyone, stop. I kept walking. A figure stepped out from behind a mesquite tree. Same height as me. Same clothes. Same build. But the face was wrong. It was my face, but the proportions were slightly off. Eyes too far apart. Mouth too wide. Like someone had described me to an artist who'd never seen me. You're going the wrong way, it said. My voice. Perfect mimicry. Everyone moved past it. Don't stop. We walked toward it. It didn't move, just stood there, blocking the path. When we got within 10 feet, I could smell it. Rot, decay, animal musk, wet dog, and spoiled meat. The highway is west, it said, gesturing. I know a shortcut. You're not me, I said. Yes, I am. You're confused. The heat. Dehydration. It smiled. Teeth too white. Too many of them. Walk around it, I told the group. Wide circle. Don't touch it. He moved to the left, giving it maybe 15 feet of space. It tracked us with its eyes but didn't follow. As we passed, it spoke again. You can't save them all, Javier. You've never lost anyone, but you will tonight. We kept walking. Behind us, I heard multiple sets of footsteps. I didn't look back. We moved through the pre-dawn darkness for another hour. The sky was getting lighter in the east, stars fading. I could make out more details now. Rocky terrain, scattered vegetation, and ahead, the distinct line of a two-lane highway cutting through the desert. Route 86. Pavement, civilization, boundaries. We were maybe half a mile out when the voices stopped, all of them simultaneously. The desert went completely silent. Why did they stop? Tomas asked. I don't know. Keep moving. We covered the last half mile at a near run. When we hit the shoulder of the highway, I felt something release in my chest, pavement under my feet, yellow lines, road signs. The highway was empty, no cars, but it was real. It was human space. What now? Rosa asked. We wait for a car, flag it down. Like I said, we take our chances. We sat on the shoulder, catching our breath. The sky was getting brighter. Dawn coming fast. Luis was staring back at the desert. They're still out there. I looked, maybe 50 yards from the highway, standing in a line at the edge of the pavement. 5 figures. Me, Samuel, Rosa, Hector, Luis, all perfectly still, watching us. Why aren't they coming closer? Samuel asked. I don't know. Do you think they can't? Like maybe the road is a barrier? I thought about that. Old folklore, boundaries, thresholds, things that can't cross running water, can't enter a home uninvited, can't cross certain lines. Maybe they couldn't cross pavement, or maybe they just chose not to. A truck appeared from the south. White Ford F 250 heading north. I stepped into the road and waved both arms. The truck slowed, stopped, window rolled down. White guy, maybe 50, rancher type, took one look at us and understood immediately. Y'all need help? Yes, sir. We need to call Border Patrol. He looked at me carefully. You're turning yourselves in? Yes. Why? I gestured at the desert. There's something out there. He followed my gesture, looked at the 5 figures standing in the distance. He went pale. Get in the truck. Now. We piled into the bed. He drove us to a Border Patrol checkpoint 10 miles north, handed us over to the agents, explained where he'd found us. They separated us for processing, asked the standard questions. I told them the truth. 5 people, 1 guide. Encountered something in the desert, decided to surrender rather than continue. I didn't tell them about the voices, the duplicates, the things that wore our faces. What would I say? They wouldn't believe me. And if they did, what could they do? They processed us. Rosa, Hector, Samuel, Tomas deported within 48 hours. Luis disappeared into the system. Turns out Luis Mendez wasn't his real name and he had warrants. I never found out what for. Me. They let go. I'm a U.S. citizen, born in Nogales on the American side, despite what I told the group. It's easier to build trust when people think you're one of them. They couldn't charge me, no evidence I'd actually guided anyone, just my word against theirs, and everyone refused to testify. I haven't worked as a coyote since. I still live in Nogales. I work construction now. Legitimate work, boring work. But sometimes, late at night, I'll hear my voice outside my window, in the alley behind my apartment, coming from the street, saying things I said that night. Stay together. Keep moving. I've never lost anyone. I don't know what those things were. Skinwalkers, Nahuales, something else, I don't know. But I know they're still out there, and I know they have my voice. If you're crossing the border, or if you're out in the desert for any reason, and you hear someone calling your name, someone who sounds exactly like your friend, your brother, your guide. Don't answer. Don't follow the voice. Don't trust that what sounds like someone you know is actually them. And if you see yourself standing in the distance, wearing your clothes, smiling with too many teeth, turn around and find pavement, find walls, find witnesses, find a boundary they can't cross. Because whatever's out there, it's patient, it's learning, and it's always hungry. When I checked the photos at dawn, my crew was in all of them, but I'd been working alone. My name is Rafael Delgado. I'm a land surveyor working out of Chihuahua City. I've been doing this for 12 years, mapping property boundaries for ranches, mining operations, development projects. It's technical work, precise. You measure, you calculate, you document. There's no room for ambiguity. A boundary line is either correct or it isn't. That's what made what happened in November of 2021 so difficult to process, because the evidence says one thing and my memory says another, and I can't reconcile the two. This was a job in the backcountry, about 90 miles southwest of Chihuahua City, near the Durango border. A wealthy family in Mexico City had inherited a massive ranch from a distant relative, something like 15,000 hectares of high desert and mountain terrain. They needed a complete survey for estate purposes, property lines, topography, water rights, the whole package. The area was remote, the kind of place where the nearest town is 40 kilometers away and has a population of maybe 200 people. The ranch itself had been abandoned for at least 20 years. The main house was still standing but gutted, windows broken, roof partially collapsed. There were old corrals, a few outbuildings, and thousands of hectares of scrubland, arroyos, and rocky hills. The family's lawyer hired my firm. My boss, Arturo, asked if I wanted to take it solo or bring a crew. How long? I asked. 2 weeks minimum, maybe 3. You'd be camping on site. I'll take it solo. Pays better. He wasn't wrong about the pay. Solo work meant I got the full contract rate instead of splitting it. Plus, I'd done solo surveys before. I prefer it, honestly. No one to slow me down, no one to double check, just me and my equipment and the mathematics of the landscape. I loaded up my truck on November 7th, 2021. Survey equipment, total station, GPS unit, ranging poles, stakes, flagging tape, camping gear, tent, sleeping bag rated for freezing temps, camp stove, 2 weeks of food, camera equipment, digital SLR with GPS tagging, spare batteries, solar charger, and my theodolite old school backup, purely mechanical in case the electronics failed. The drive took 6 hours, the last 30 kilometers on dirt roads that barely qualified as roads. I arrived at the ranch just before sunset, parked near the main house, walked the immediate area to get oriented. The house was bigger than I expected. 2 stories, stone and adobe construction, probably built in the 1920s. The interior was destroyed, furniture broken, walls crumbling, everything covered in dust and bird shit, but the bones were solid. I decided to set up my tent outside rather than sleep inside. Something about the house felt wrong. Not supernatural wrong, just sad, abandoned, forgotten. I pitched my tent near the old corral, set up my camp kitchen, ate a cold dinner, and reviewed the survey plan. The property was divided into rough quadrants based on terrain. I'd start with the eastern section, work my way west, then tackle the northern mountains last. Standard grid pattern, mark and photograph every boundary marker, elevation point, and significant feature. I started work the next morning at first light. November in Chihuahua high country means cold mornings, mild days, freezing nights. I wore layers, carried water, and moved methodically. The eastern section was relatively flat, good sight lines. I set up my total station on a high point, took measurements to establish my baseline, then started working the grid. Plant the stake, measure angles and distances, photograph the location, record the data, move to the next point. By noon, I'd covered maybe 40 hectares. I broke for lunch, reviewed my morning photos on the camera's display screen, standard stuff, landscape shots, stakes with GPS coordinates visible, the occasional panorama for context. In one photo, taken around 10:30 that morning, there was a person in the background. I zoomed in on the camera screen. A man, maybe 100 meters behind where I'd planted the stake, standing near a cluster of yucca plants, wearing dark clothing, too far away to make out features, but definitely human-shaped. I looked up from the camera and scanned the landscape. Nothing. No one. I checked the timestamp. 10:27 a.m. I remembered taking that shot. I'd been alone. The nearest ranch was 15 kilometers away. No roads led here except the one I'd driven in on. Maybe a ranch hand? Someone checking on the property? I made a mental note to ask around in the nearest town when I went for supplies. I kept working. By the time the sun started dropping toward the hills, I'd covered the entire eastern quadrant. I packed up my equipment, hiked back to camp, and spent the evening processing data, transferring measurements to my laptop, updating the digital map, reviewing photos. That's when I found the second one. Photo taken at 2:15 p.m., a stake in the foreground, scrubland stretching out behind it, and in the distance, maybe 70 meters away, another figure, same dark clothing, standing completely still, facing the camera. I hadn't seen anyone all afternoon. I went through every photo from the day. Out of 93 images, 7 had figures in them, always in the background, always distant, always standing still. In one photo, there were 2 figures. I sat in my tent with my laptop, staring at the screen. This made no sense. I would have noticed people walking around. The landscape was open, visibility was good. You can't just appear and disappear in terrain like that, unless they were very good at staying out of sight, or unless something else was happening. I didn't sleep well that night. The next morning, I decided to work the southern section. Different terrain, more arroyos, rockier, some low hills. I brought my camera, but also my truck, planning to cover more ground by relocating my base position multiple times. I worked carefully. Every time I set up for a measurement, I scanned the area first, 360 degrees, looking for movement, for people, for anything out of place. Nothing. I took my measurements, photographed everything, moved to the next station. At lunch, I reviewed the morning photos. 11 images had figures in them, more than yesterday, and closer. In one photo, taken at 9:40 a.m., a figure stood maybe 30 meters behind a survey stake, close enough that I should have seen them in my peripheral vision, close enough that I should have heard them moving through the brush. The figure was wearing the same type of clothing I was wearing, dark jacket, jeans, baseball cap. I zoomed in as far as the image allowed. The face was blurred, like they'd moved just as I took the shot. But the posture, the build, it looked like me. I took a break, sat in my truck with the doors locked, eating a protein bar I didn't taste, trying to think logically. Option 1, someone was following me, watching me, staying just out of direct sight, but occasionally appearing in my photos. But why? And how were they so good at hiding? This was open terrain. Option 2, equipment malfunction. Some kind of glitch causing the camera to overlay images or create artifacts. But the figures appeared in different positions, different distances, different lighting conditions. That wasn't how camera glitches worked. Option 3, I was losing my mind. Stress, isolation, seeing things that weren't there. But the photos were real. Digital images with timestamps and GPS coordinates, evidence. Option 4, something else, something I didn't want to consider. I'd heard stories, Everyone who works in rural Mexico has heard stories. The ranchers, the miners, the surveyors who came before me, things in the backcountry, shapeshifters, nahuales, skinwalkers, though that term is more Navajo than Mexican. We have our own names for them. Things that watch you, follow you, mimic you. I didn't believe in that shit, but I was alone in 15,000 hectares of empty desert with photographs of people who shouldn't exist. I decided to test it. That afternoon, I set up my camera on a tripod, framed a shot of a survey stake with a wide background view, set the timer for 10 seconds, walked into the frame, stood next to the stake, waited for the shutter. Click. I checked the image. Me, standing next to the stake, and behind me, maybe 50 meters back, another figure. Same clothing, same posture, but facing away from the camera. I spun around. Nothing there. I took the photo 7 seconds ago. No one could have disappeared that fast in open terrain. I packed up immediately, drove back to camp. It was only 3 p.m., but I was done for the day. That night, I went through every single photo I'd taken since arriving. Day 1, day 2, today, looking for patterns. The figures appeared more frequently over time. Day 1, 7 photos. Day 2, 11 photos. Today, 19 photos. They were getting closer. Day 1, average distance, maybe 80 meters. Day 2, 60 meters. Today, some as close as 20 meters. And they were changing. In the earliest photos, the figures were indistinct, generic human shapes. But as the days progressed, they started looking more specific, more like me. Same clothing, same build, same posture. In the most recent photo, the one where I'd used the timer, the figure behind me was wearing an identical jacket. Same color, same fit. I pulled up the photo properties, GPS coordinates, timestamp, camera settings. Everything looked normal, no signs of manipulation or corruption. I uploaded the photos to my laptop's hard drive, then to a cloud backup. If something happened to me, at least there would be evidence. I should have left then, packed up, driven back to Chihuahua City, told Arturo the job was off. But I'm stubborn and practical, and I needed this money. Plus, I told myself nothing had actually happened. No one had threatened me. No one had approached me. They were just there in the photos. Maybe it was some kind of phenomenon I didn't understand. Atmospheric conditions, light refraction, some weird desert mirage effect captured digitally. I convinced myself of that for about 4 hours. Then I heard the footsteps. It was just after midnight. I was in my tent, lying in my sleeping bag, not really sleeping, just listening to the wind and thinking about tomorrow's work plan. Footsteps, boots on hard ground, walking around my camp, slow, deliberate, circling the tent. I held my breath and listened. The steps were heavy, adult weight, moving in a steady circle maybe 10 feet from my tent. I waited for a voice, a challenge. Who's there? Or come out, or something. Nothing. Just footsteps. I grabbed my flashlight and unzipped the tent. Hello? The footsteps stopped. I shined my light in a circle around the camp. Tent, truck, camp stove, equipment boxes, corral fence beyond. No one. I walked the perimeter. The ground was hard packed, dirt and rock, not great for tracks. But in a few soft patches near my truck, I found boot prints. My size, my tread pattern, same boots I was wearing. I looked down at my feet, same boots. I checked my truck, locked, undisturbed. Equipment boxes, locked. Tent, exactly as I'd left it. Nothing missing, nothing moved. Just boot prints that matched mine circling my camp. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I sat in my truck with the doors locked, lights on, watching the darkness, waiting for sunrise. At first light, I made a decision. I'd finish the survey. but I'd do it fast. No more 2 or 3 weeks. I'd cut corners, work longer days, get the minimum required data, and get out. I spent the next 4 days working from dawn until dark. I stopped reviewing photos in the field, didn't want to know what was appearing in them. I'd check everything when I was back in civilization. The figures appeared more frequently. I didn't need to check the camera to know. I could feel them, that weight of being watched, that sense of presence just outside your vision. Sometimes I'd hear footsteps during the day, matching my pace, staying behind me. I never saw anyone directly, but on day 6, I found something that made my hands shake. I was working a section of the northern property up in the hills, rocky terrain, sparse vegetation, good elevation views. I planted a stake and was setting up my total station when I noticed something carved into a flat rock face about 20 feet away. Letters, crude, scratched into the stone with something sharp. Rafael Delgado. My name. I walked over and examined it. Fresh. The exposed stone was lighter than the weathered surface. This was recent, maybe hours old. No one knew I was here except Arturo, and he was in Chihuahua City. The nearest town didn't even know my name. I just stopped for gas and supplies, paid cash, didn't talk to anyone. Below my name, another word. Stay. I left that section unfinished, hiked back to my truck, drove back to camp. The house was waiting for me. Not the actual house, but a figure standing in front of the house. Same clothing as me, same build, same posture, standing perfectly still, facing my tent. I stopped the truck about 50 meters away. We stared at each other. It didn't move, didn't react, just stood there. I honked the horn. Long blast, loud. It didn't flinch. I put the truck in gear and drove slowly toward it. It stayed motionless until I was maybe 20 feet away. And then it turned and walked into the house, through the open doorway, into the shadows. I did not follow it. Instead, I packed everything: tent, equipment, supplies, threw it all on the truck bed, didn't bother organizing, just loaded and locked. As I was packing the last box, I heard my voice coming from inside the house. Raphael, can you help me with this measurement? My voice, my inflection, my accent. Raphael, I think the total station is malfunctioning. I got in the truck. Raphael, where are you going? We're not finished. I started the engine. The figure appeared in the doorway, silhouetted against the darkness inside. Watching me, I drove. The dirt road out seemed longer than I remembered. 30 kilometers of washboard ruts and rocks. I white-knuckled the steering wheel and didn't look in the rearview mirror. When I hit pavement, I felt something release, like crossing a threshold, leaving one world and entering another. I drove straight to Chihuahua City. 12 hours, including gas stops. Arrived at 3 a.m. Went to my apartment, locked every door and window, and slept for 14 hours. When I woke up, I opened my laptop and went through the photos. There were hundreds of them now. The figures appeared in almost every image, multiple figures in many shots. 3, 4, sometimes 5 of them, all wearing my clothing, all standing at different distances, all facing the camera. In the final photos taken on the day I left, they were close, 10 meters, 5 meters. In one shot, a figure stood directly behind me. I must have set up a delayed shot and walked away before checking. The figure was reaching toward where I'd been standing. I reviewed the metadata, all legitimate, no signs of tampering. These were real photographs taken by my camera. I called Arturo. The job's incomplete. I told him. What happened? Equipment problems, site conditions. It's not safe. Raphael, they're paying us. Refund them or send someone else. I'm not going back, he argued. I hung up. I burned the photos to 3 separate hard drives, encrypted them, put them in different locations. If I disappeared, something happened to me, someone would eventually find them. That was 2 years ago. Arturo sent another surveyor, guy named Miguel, experienced, competent. He lasted 5 days before calling it off. Said the equipment kept malfunctioning. Said he felt watched. Didn't mention photos, probably didn't check them. The ranch still sits unsurveyed. The family eventually gave up, sold it at auction to some development company. I don't know if they've done anything with it. I still work as a surveyor, different regions now. I stay away from Chihuahua backcountry, stay away from large isolated properties. And I don't work alone anymore because I learned something in those 7 days. There are things out there that watch us, study us, learn us. They take our shape, our voice, our patterns. I don't know what they want. I don't know what they are, but I know they're patient and I know they document their work just like we do because 2 months ago I got an email, no sender name, just an address I didn't recognize. Subject line, survey complete. Attached were photos, hundreds of them. My camp, my truck, my tent, my equipment, all taken from angles I never shot from. And in every single photo, there I was, working, measuring, recording, except I was facing the wrong direction. My back was to the camera in every shot because I wasn't the one taking the pictures. Someone, something else was, they were surveying me, measuring me, documenting me, learning my boundaries. I deleted the email, destroyed that laptop, but I kept one photo, printed it, keep it in my wallet. It's a reminder when you're out in the backcountry, especially alone, especially in places that feel forgotten, you're not always the one observing. Sometimes you're the one being measured. And if you're taking photos on a solo job and you start seeing figures in the background that you didn't notice in real time, pack up, leave immediately. Don't wait for them to get closer. Don't wait to see your own face looking back at you from the shadows, because by the time they're close enough to appear in focus, they've already learned everything they need to know about you. And they won't stop watching just because you leave. They'll follow you home. The attendant said if I was still there at midnight, he was locking me outside. My name is Ernesto Vega. I'm a long haul truck driver working routes between Monterrey and Mazatlan. I've been doing this for 16 years. I've driven through every kind of weather, every time of day, every stretch of highway in northern Mexico. I know which truck stops have clean bathrooms, which mechanics will rip you off, which state police will shake you down for mordida, and which roads to avoid after dark. Highway 40 through Durango is one of those roads you don't want to be on after sunset if you can help it. Not because of criminals, though, that's a concern too, but because it's remote, mountainous, and if something goes wrong, help is a long time coming. The highway cuts through the Sierra Madre Occidental, climbing from sea level on the Pacific side to over 2,400 meters elevation, then dropping back down toward the desert. Lots of curves, lots of cliffs, lots of nothing between towns. I've driven it maybe 200 times, always during the day when possible. On November 14th, 2022, I didn't have a choice. I was hauling auto parts from Monterrey to Mazatlan. Scheduled delivery was the 15th at 8 a.m., which meant I needed to drive through the night to make the window. I left Monterrey at 4 p.m., planning to reach Mazatlan by 6 or 7 the next morning. 900 kilometers, about 12 hours, with stops. The truck was a Freightliner, 10 years old, diesel, 18 gears, fully loaded at about 20 tons. I'd been driving this particular truck for 3 years, knew its sounds, its rhythms, its problems. The engine ran hot, always had, but within acceptable range. The brakes were new, replaced 2 months ago. The tires were good. Everything checked out during my pre-trip inspection. I made it to Durango City around 9 p.m., stopped for fuel, food, and a quick systems check. Everything looked fine. Weather forecast was clear. I had a full tank, a thermos of coffee, and a playlist of norteño music to keep me alert. Highway 40, west of Durango City, starts climbing immediately. The terrain changes from high desert to pine forest to rocky mountains. The road is well maintained but narrow in sections, with steep drop-offs and no shoulder. You drive carefully, stay in your lane, and watch for wildlife. Around 10:30 p.m., somewhere between El Salto and the Sinaloa border, the truck started making a noise. Not the normal diesel rumble, a different sound, metallic, rhythmic, coming from somewhere in the engine compartment. I reduced speed, listening. The noise continued. Tick, 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 regular. Not getting louder, but not stopping either. I checked my gauges. Temperature normal, oil pressure normal, no warning lights. But that sound meant something was wrong. I started looking for a place to pull over. This section of highway had almost no shoulder, just guardrail and cliff on one side, rock face on the other. I needed a wide spot, a turnout, somewhere safe to stop and investigate. I drove for maybe 15 minutes, the ticking getting slightly louder before I saw lights ahead. A gas station. Not a major truck stop, just a small Pemex station sitting by itself on a rare flat section of highway. Two pumps under a canopy. A small building, probably office and bathroom combined. Single light pole illuminating the lot. Mountains and forest pressing in on all sides. I pulled in, grateful. The lot was empty, except for an old pickup truck parked near the building. I shut down the engine and the ticking stopped immediately. Silence. Just wind through pine trees and the tick, tick, tick of hot metal cooling. I climbed down from the cab and stretched. Cold up here, maybe 5 degrees Celsius. I could see my breath. The station looked operational, but minimal. The pumps were old, but functional. The building was concrete block, painted white, with a small window and a door. A handwritten sign in the window, Abierto 24 horas, open 24 hours. The door opened and a man stepped out, maybe 60 years old, indigenous features, wearing a Pemex uniform jacket and jeans. He looked at me, looked at my truck, nodded. Engine trouble? He asked in Spanish. Maybe, making a noise. I need to check it. You can use the lot. I've got tools if you need them. Thank you. I just need to look first. He nodded and went back inside. I popped the hood and examined the engine compartment with my flashlight. Everything looked normal. No obvious leaks, no loose belts, no damaged hoses. I started the engine again. Tick, 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 tick. There, somewhere near the fuel pump. I shut it down and looked closer. The fuel line connection to the injection pump had a hairline crack. Diesel was seeping out. Not much, but enough. When the engine ran, the pressure caused the line to vibrate against the pump housing. That was the ticking. Fixable, but not here. I needed a replacement line, or at least proper sealant and clamps. This wasn't something you could jury rig safely on a loaded truck. I walked to the building and knocked. The attendant opened the door. Fuel line problem, I told him. Do you have any repair supplies? Hose clamps? Sealant? Anything? He shook his head. I have oil, coolant, basic fluids. No parts. Is there a mechanic nearby? A shop? Not until La Ciudad, 40 kilometers west. But nothing's open now. Everything closes at 6. I checked my watch. 11:15 p.m. What about in the other direction? Back toward Durango? El Salto has a mechanic, maybe 60 kilometers. Same problem, closed until morning. I did the math. I couldn't drive with that crack. The leak was small now, but would worsen under pressure. I could lose fuel, lose pressure, damage the injection system. Worst case, the line fails completely on a mountain curve and I lose power braking. I need to wait until morning, I said. Can I park here overnight? The attendant looked at me for a long moment. You can park, he said slowly, but you should stay in your truck. Lock the doors. Don't come out after midnight. Why? Just don't. Is there a problem here? Criminals? Cartel? No, nothing like that. Just stay in your truck after midnight. Lock the doors. If you hear anything, ignore it. If you see anything, don't look at it. Wait until sunrise, then drive to La Ciudad for repairs. I stared at him. What's out here? I don't know what it is, but it comes every night. Walks the lot, looks in windows. If you're outside when it comes, it notices you. And once it notices you, he didn't finish. Once it notices you, what? It doesn't leave. It follows, not just here. It knows where you go, what you look like. It studies you. That's, I know how it sounds, but I've worked here for 12 years. I've seen it. Others have seen it. Truck drivers, travelers, people who broke down like you. The ones who stayed outside after midnight, the ones who looked at it, tried to talk to it. Some of them came back, some didn't. The ones who came back, they were different, afraid, said they saw it at home. At other stops, it followed them. I looked around the empty lot. Trees pressed close on three sides. Highway dark and silent. Just the wind and the hum of the fluorescent lights. What does it look like? Different each time. Sometimes like a person, sometimes like an animal, sometimes like something in between. But it walks on two legs, and it's always watching. Why do you stay here? It doesn't bother me. I'm inside. Doors locked, lights on. It walks the lot, looks around, leaves before dawn. As long as I follow the rules, I'm fine. What rules? Lock the doors at midnight. Don't open them for anyone until sunrise. Don't look directly at it. Don't speak to it. Don't acknowledge it exists. It can't come inside as long as the doors are locked and the lights are on. This was insane. Old man superstition, rural folklore. But he believed it completely. I'll stay in my truck, I said. Good. Lock the doors. Close the curtains. Try to sleep. Don't look out the windows after midnight. He started to close the door, then stopped. One more thing. If it knocks on your truck, don't answer. If it speaks, don't respond. If it sounds like someone you know, someone asking for help, someone in trouble, it's not them. It's never them. He closed the door. I heard the lock click. I walked back to my truck, climbed into the cab, and sat in the driver's seat. 11:40 p.m. 20 minutes until midnight. I'm not a superstitious man. I believe in mechanics, mathematics, things I can measure and fix. But I've driven long haul for 16 years, and I've heard stories. Every truck driver has. Things on the highways late at night, figures standing by the road, voices on the CB radio calling for help from empty stretches, drivers who stopped to help someone and found no one there. Most of it's bullshit. Tired eyes, isolation, the brain seeing patterns in darkness. But some of it makes you wonder. I locked both doors, closed the curtains that separated the cab from the sleeper berth, turned off the interior lights, sat in darkness, listening to the wind. My phone had signal. Weak, but there. I texted my dispatcher. Broken down at Pemex station. Highway 40 kilometers, marker 178. Fuel line issue. Repairs in morning. Delivery will be late. He responded, keep me updated. Stay safe. I set my phone on the dashboard and waited. 11:55 p.m. The station lights were bright. I could see the lot clearly through my windshield. Two pumps, the building, the old pickup truck, trees beyond, empty highway. Nothing moving. 11:58 p.m. I realized I hadn't heard any traffic in over half an hour. Highway 40 isn't busy at night, but you usually get a car or truck every 10 or 15 minutes. Nothing had passed since I'd arrived. Midnight, the station lights flickered. Just once. Brief. Then steady again. I heard footsteps. Not on pavement. In the gravel at the edge of the lot. Slow, heavy, regular rhythm. Walking. I couldn't see anything. The footsteps were coming from the tree line on the north side, out of the light pool. They stopped. Silence. Then they started again, closer, moving toward the pumps. I leaned forward slightly, trying to see without touching the curtains. A shape emerged from the darkness. It was tall, taller than a normal person, maybe 2 meters, maybe more. The proportions were wrong. Arms too long, legs that bent at angles that didn't match human joints. It was wearing clothes, or something like clothes, dark fabric that hung loose, but the way it moved fluid, jointless, like water running uphill. It walked to the first pump and stopped. It stood there, completely still, like it was waiting for something. I held my breath. It turned its head toward my truck. I couldn't see a face. The angle was wrong, or the light was wrong, or it didn't have a face the way faces normally work. But I knew it was looking at me, directly at me, through the windshield, through the darkness of the cab, through the curtains I'd closed. It saw me. It started walking toward the truck, slow, deliberate, those wrong jointed legs moving in a rhythm that made my stomach turn. I remembered the attendant's words, "Don't look at it." I closed my eyes. The footsteps got louder, closer. They stopped right outside the driver's door. Silence. I kept my eyes closed, breathing shallow, hands gripping the steering wheel. A sound, soft, like fingernails on metal, scratching down the side of the truck. Slow, gentle, methodical. It was tracing the length of the trailer. I could hear it moving from the cab toward the back, that soft scratch, scratch, scratch of something sharp on painted metal. It reached the rear of the trailer. Silence. Then the footsteps came back up the passenger side. Scratch, 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 tracing the truck again. It stopped at the passenger door. Knock, knock, knock. 3 slow knocks, deliberate, patient. I didn't move. Another knock, louder, then a voice. "Ernesto?" My wife's voice. "Ernesto, open the door. I'm cold." My wife was in Monterey, 800 kilometers away, in our apartment, asleep. "Ernesto, please. I'm scared. Let me in." Not her. Not her voice. Something using her voice. "Ernesto, why won't you help me?" I kept my eyes closed, kept my breathing steady, didn't respond. The voice changed. My mother, dead for 6 years. "Mijo, it's Mama. Open the door." Then my brother. "Ernesto, I broke down. I need help." Then my daughter. "Papa, I'm lost. I can't find you." My daughter was 12 years old, home with her mother, safe. "Papa, please. It's dark. I'm afraid." I squeezed my eyes shut tighter, bit my lip, didn't make a sound. The voice stopped. Silence. Then footsteps, moving away from the truck, back toward the pumps. I waited, counted to 100, opened my eyes. The lot was empty. No figure, no movement, just the pools of light from the station and the darkness beyond. I checked my watch. 12:23 a.m. I sat in the cab, door locked, curtains closed, and didn't move for the rest of the night. At 12:45, I heard the footsteps again, circling the lot, walking the perimeter, never coming close to the building, never approaching my truck again, just walking, regular, endless. At 1:30 a.m., the scratching started, not on my truck, on the pavement, like something was dragging claws across the asphalt. Long, slow scrapes, patterns, circles. At 2:15 a.m., I heard singing, no words, just a melody, high-pitched, wrong intervals, music that made my teeth ache. At 3 a.m., silence, complete silence, no wind, no footsteps, no scratching, no singing, just absence of sound, so total it felt like pressure. At 4:30 a.m., a rooster crowed, somewhere distant, normal sound, beautiful sound. At 5 a.m., a truck passed on the highway, heading west. I heard it coming from a kilometer away, watched its lights sweep past, heard it fade into the distance. Normal traffic, normal world. At 5:45 a.m., the sky started getting lighter. Not sunrise yet, but pre-dawn gray, the darkness thinning. At 6 a.m., I heard the station door unlock. The attendant stepped out, looked around the lot, saw my truck, nodded. I waited until full daylight, 6:30 a.m. The sun was visible over the mountains to the east. I unlocked my door and climbed down. The lot looked normal. Two pumps, building, highway, my truck. But on the pavement, all around my truck, there were marks, scratches, hundreds of them, crisscrossing patterns, spirals, lines, radiating out from where my truck sat, like something had been drawing, or writing, or mapping. The attendant walked over. "You stayed inside," he said. "Yes." "Good." He looked at the scratches. "It was interested in you." "What is it?" "I don't know. Something old. Something that was here before the highway, before the station, before anything." The Tarahumara people who used to live in these mountains, they had stories, things that walk between worlds, things that wear shapes like clothes. Has it ever hurt anyone? Not directly, but the people who engage with it, who acknowledge it, who try to communicate, they don't last long. Accidents, disappearances, or they just change, stop talking, stop eating, waste away, like something took a piece of them and they can't get it back. I looked at the scratches around my truck, hundreds of lines, deliberate patterns. What was it doing? Learning you, your truck, your route, where you've been, where you're going. That's, I know, but look at the patterns. They're not random. He was right. The scratches formed shapes, rough but recognizable. The outline of my truck, the route of Highway 40, the curve of the mountains. It was drawing a map. "You should leave," the attendant said. "Get your truck fixed in La Ciudad. Don't come back to this station." "Will it follow me?" "I don't know. Maybe. Maybe it just studies travelers, learns them, adds them to whatever it knows. Maybe it follows some and not others." "How do I know if it's following me?" "You'll know." I drove to La Ciudad, found a mechanic, had the fuel line replaced. Cost me 3 hours and 2,000 pesos. I called my dispatcher, explained the delay. He wasn't happy, but understood. I delivered the auto parts to Mazatlan 8 hours late, took the penalty fee, drove back to Monterey on Highway 15, the coastal route, longer but lower elevation, no mountains. I didn't take Highway 40. That was 14 months ago. I still drive long haul, same routes, mostly. Monterey to Mazatlan, Monterey to Guadalajara, sometimes up to the border, Laredo or Reynosa. But I avoid Highway 40. I take the long way, add hours to my trips. My dispatcher thinks I'm being superstitious. Maybe I am. But 3 times in the last year, I've seen something. Once, at a truck stop in Saltillo, I was fueling up, midnight, under the bright lights. I saw a figure at the edge of the lot, tall, wrong proportions, watching me. I didn't look directly at it. I finished fueling, got in my truck, drove away. Once, on Highway 57, between Monterey and Saltillo, 3 a.m., empty road. I saw something standing on the shoulder, same height, same wrong angles. As I passed, it turned its head to follow my truck. I didn't stop, didn't slow down, kept driving. And once, 2 months ago, outside my apartment in Monterey, I came home after a week on the road, parked in my usual spot, started walking to my building, saw a figure standing across the street under a street light, tall, still, watching my apartment. It was wearing my clothes, my jacket, my hat, the same clothes I was wearing. I walked into my building without looking at it, took the stairs instead of the elevator, got to my apartment, locked every lock, closed every curtain. My wife asked if I was okay. I said I was tired. That night, I heard scratching on our balcony door. We live on the fourth floor. I didn't look. In the morning, there were marks on the balcony railing, scratches, patterns, a map of our apartment building. I don't know what it wants. I don't know what it's doing, but I know it learned me that night at the Pemex station, and it's still learning. It follows me now. Not every day, not every trip, but it's there, at the edges, watching, drawing its maps, learning my routes, my schedule, my home. I've thought about quitting, finding a different job, moving cities, but I don't think that would matter. It knows me now, and whatever it's studying, whatever it's mapping, whatever it's learning, I'm part of it. If you drive long haul, especially through remote areas, especially at night, pay attention to the empty lots, the closed stations, the places where you're the only one there. And if you break down somewhere isolated, somewhere that feels wrong, somewhere where the locals give you warnings, listen to them. Lock your doors, close your curtains, don't look out the windows, don't acknowledge what's outside. Because once it knows you're aware of it, once it knows you can see it, it starts paying attention and it doesn't stop. I told them the shaft was empty, but I knew what I'd left down there. My name is Andres Ibarra. I'm a geological surveyor working for mining companies across northern Mexico. I've been doing this for 19 years. I assess old mines, test mineral deposits, evaluate whether abandoned sites are worth reopening. It's technical work. You go underground, you take samples, you measure, you document. Then you write a report that either makes a company millions or saves them from wasting money on a dead site. I've surveyed maybe 70 mines in my career. Silver, copper, gold, lead, some dating back to Spanish colonial times, some abandoned as recently as the 1990s. I've seen collapsed shafts, flooded tunnels, unstable geology, toxic gases. I know the risks. I follow protocols. I've never had a serious accident until the San Rafael mine in Sonora. That's the one I lied about. The one where I filed a report saying the lower shafts were structurally unsound and recommended against further exploration. The report was technically accurate. The shafts were unstable. But that's not why I recommended closure. I recommended closure because of what I saw down there, what I heard, what followed me back to the surface, and what's still there, 300 meters underground, waiting. This happened in March of 2023. A Canadian company called Normark Resources hired my firm to survey the San Rafael mine, an abandoned silver operation about 60 kilometers northeast of Hermosillo, Sonora. The mine had been closed since 1978 when the vein played out and silver prices dropped. 45 years abandoned. But recent satellite surveys suggested there might be untapped deposits in the lower levels that the original operators never reached. My job was simple: go down, map the accessible tunnels, take core samples, assess structural integrity, determine if it was worth investing in reopening. I arrived at the site on March 9th, 2023. The mine was located in desert foothills, scrubland, and rocky terrain. Nothing around for kilometers except an old access road and the ruins of the original mining camp. A few collapsed buildings, rusted equipment, and the main shaft entrance of a concrete portal built into the hillside, sealed with a modern steel door that Normark had installed for the survey. I was working solo. Standard for preliminary surveys. You save costs, move faster, and there's less risk if something goes wrong, only one person to extract instead of a whole team. I spent the first day doing surface work. Checked the shaft entrance, tested the ventilation system Normark had installed, set up my equipment staging area, reviewed the original mine maps from 1978, The map showed three levels: upper level at 50 meters depth, middle level at 150 meters, and lower level at 300 meters. The lower level had been partially explored but never fully developed. That's where I needed to go. Day 2, March 10th. I entered the mine. The main shaft descended vertically with a modern industrial ladder bolted to the wall installed by Normark's advance team the week before. I wore a full harness, helmet with mounted lights, respirator, gas detector, emergency radio, and carried a survey pack with sample tools, GPS mapper, and backup equipment. The descent to the upper level took 20 minutes. The air was cool, dry, and stale, but breathable. No gas readings. The upper level tunnels were in decent condition, reinforced with timber supports that had held up well. I spent 3 hours mapping and sampling. Everything looked promising. Good mineral indicators, stable geology. I continued down to the middle level. More of the same. Longer tunnels, more extensive excavation, some areas with partial collapses, but nothing major. I collected samples, updated my maps, checked structural integrity. By early afternoon, I'd cleared the middle level and was ready for the lower level. That's when I noticed something odd. In one of the middle level tunnels, maybe 200 meters from the main shaft, I found boot prints in the dust. Fresh boot prints. The dust down there was undisturbed, 45 years of settled particles coating everything. But these prints were clean, recent, leading deeper into the tunnel toward a side passage I hadn't explored yet. I followed them. The passage narrowed, descending at a slight angle, timber supports getting older and less stable. The boot prints continued, same tread pattern, same size, leading me forward. The passage opened into a small chamber, maybe 5 meters across, empty except for some old mining equipment picks, shovels, a broken ore cart. The boot prints stopped in the center of the chamber. Just stopped, no return prints, no indication anyone had walked back out. I examined the chamber walls, solid rock, no other passages, no way out except the way I'd come in. I checked my gas detector, normal readings. I checked my radio, static but functional. I was still within range of the surface relay. I looked at the blueprints again. They were the same size as mine, same tread pattern, the same boots I was wearing. I backed out of the chamber slowly, keeping my light on the prints. When I reached the main tunnel, I turned and walked quickly back to the shaft. I should have surfaced then. Should have called it a day, gone back to my hotel in Hermosillo, thought about what I'd seen. But I had a job to finish, and boot prints, even weird ones, weren't a reason to abort a survey. I convinced myself it was a trick of the light, or old prints I'd misidentified, or something mundane I was overthinking. I descended to the lower level, 300 meters down. The air was noticeably different here, cooler, damper, with a mineral smell that wasn't unpleasant but was distinct. The lower level was less developed than the upper two. Shorter tunnels, less reinforcement, more rough-cut rock. According to the old maps, there were three main tunnels branching from the shaft at this level: north, east, and south, each extending roughly 100 meters before ending at the working face where excavation had stopped. I started with the north tunnel. The tunnel was narrow, maybe 2 meters high and 1.5 meters wide. Timber supports every 3 meters, some showing rot and stress. I moved carefully, testing each support before proceeding, watching for unstable ground. 50 meters in, I heard something. A sound behind me, back toward the shaft. Footsteps, boot steps on rock, slow, steady, deliberate. I turned and shined my light back down the tunnel. Nothing. Empty tunnel. My own footprints in the dust, leading back the way I'd come. No other prints. I stood still and listened. The footsteps continued, getting closer. I could hear them clearly. The crunch of boots on loose rock, the rhythm of someone walking, coming toward me. But I couldn't see anyone. Hello? I called out. My voice echoed in the confined space. The footsteps stopped. Silence. Then they started again, closer now, maybe 20 meters away. Still nothing visible. I backed up, keeping my light aimed down the tunnel, moving toward the working face at the end. The footsteps matched my pace. When I moved, they moved. When I stopped, they stopped. I reached the end of the tunnel, solid rock face, no way forward. I turned to face back down the tunnel, back pressed against the rock. The footsteps were right in front of me now, 3 meters away, 2 meters. I could hear breathing, slow, deep, regular. I could smell something, damp earth, mineral dust, and something else, something organic, like meat that had been underground too long. 1 meter away, right in front of me. I could feel air movement, like something was standing there, blocking the tunnel, breathing. But there was nothing, just empty air, just darkness beyond my light. Then I heard my voice. Hello? My exact inflection, my accent, my voice calling out the same word I'd said 60 seconds ago, coming from the empty air in front of me. Hello? Is someone there? Still my voice, asking questions I hadn't asked. I didn't respond, didn't move, just stood with my back against the rock, light shining at nothing, listening to my own voice coming from something I couldn't see. Andres, where are you? It knew my name. Andres, I need help. The tunnel collapsed. I'm trapped. My voice, full of panic I hadn't felt. Please, Andres, don't leave me down here. I closed my eyes, counted to 10, opened them. The tunnel was empty. No footsteps, no breathing, no voice, just silence and dust and my light cutting through darkness. I moved, fast, back down the tunnel toward the shaft, not running, but walking quickly, deliberately, not looking back. I reached the main shaft chamber, stood there breathing hard, checking my gas detector still normal, checking my radio still static, trying to rationalize what had just happened. Acoustic anomaly, sound reflecting in weird ways, my own voice bouncing back distorted. Underground spaces do strange things to sound. That's what I told myself. I had 2 more tunnels to survey, east and south. I could skip them, surface now, come back tomorrow with equipment to record and analyze any acoustic phenomena, or I could finish the job. I'm stubborn and thorough, and I'd never left a survey incomplete. I chose the east tunnel. This one was wider, better supported, with old rail tracks running down the center where ore carts used to run. I followed the tracks, taking samples every 10 meters, updating my map, working methodically. 70 meters in, I found something on the ground. My survey pack, the same pack I was wearing on my back. Same color, same brand, same wear patterns, even the same company logo patch sewn onto the side. I took off my pack and set it down next to the one on the ground. Identical. I opened the pack on the ground. Inside, survey tools, sample bags, GPS mapper, backup radio, all of the same equipment I was carrying. I checked the GPS mapper. It was on, active, showing a map of the mine, showing my current location, showing me as a blue dot on the screen, standing in the east tunnel, 70 meters from the shaft. But it also showed another dot, red, moving in the south tunnel, the tunnel I hadn't entered yet. I watched the red dot on the screen. It was moving away from the shaft, deeper into the south tunnel, following the same methodical pattern I used when surveying stop, sample, move forward, stop, sample. It was surveying. Something was down here with me in the south tunnel, doing exactly what I was doing. I grabbed my pack, the one I'd been wearing, and left the duplicate on the ground. I should have surfaced, should have climbed that ladder and not looked back. But I needed to know. I needed to see what was in the south tunnel. I crossed the shaft chamber and entered the south tunnel. This one was different from the others, less finished, more rough cut, with areas where the rock was exposed and jagged. The air here was colder and carried that organic smell I'd noticed before, stronger now, decay and earth and something that made my hindbrain scream warnings. I moved quietly, light dimmed, following the tunnel deeper. 50 meters in, I saw it, a figure, standing with its back to me, facing the tunnel wall, holding something up to the rock. It was wearing the same clothes as me, same work pants, same company jacket, same helmet, same height, same build. It was taking a sample. I could see the movements. Chip at the rock, collect fragments, place them in a sample bag. Professional, methodical, exactly how I work. Hey, I said quietly. The figure stopped moving. Slowly, it turned around. It was wearing my face. Not similar, not approximately, exactly my face, my features, my skin tone, my stubble pattern, even the small scar above my left eyebrow from a childhood accident. But the eyes were wrong. Too dark, completely black, no whites, no iris definition, just solid black reflecting my light. It smiled, my smile, my exact expression. Andres, it said in my voice, you're early. I'm not finished with this section yet. What are you? I'm you, or I will be once I've learned everything. That's not possible. You're standing here looking at me. How is it not possible? It took a step toward me. I took a step back. Don't be afraid, it said. I'm just doing the survey. Same as you. We can work together, cover more ground. You're not real. I'm as real as you are, maybe more real. You're just flesh and memory and electrical impulses. I'm something older, something that knows how to be anything, and took another step forward. I've been you before. Well, not you specifically, but others like you. Surveyors, engineers, people who come down into dark places alone. I learn them, become them, wear them like clothes until I understand everything about how they work. Why? Why do you survey minds? To understand what's beneath the surface, to map what's hidden. I do the same thing, just with people instead of rocks. I backed toward the tunnel entrance, keeping my light on it. It didn't follow, just stood there, wearing my face, holding my sample bag, watching me with those black eyes. You can't leave, it said. You haven't finished the survey. The company is expecting a complete report. I'll file the report from the surface. But you haven't sampled this section. You haven't mapped the end of this tunnel. You haven't verified the mineral deposits. You're not thorough, Andres. You're not professional. That's not like you. It was right. In a horrible, twisted way, it was right. I always finished surveys, always completed the work. Unless, it continued, you want me to finish for you. I can do that. I know how you work. I can complete the survey, surface, file the report, drive back to Hermosillo. I can be you better than you can. No one would know the difference. No. Why not? You're tired. You're afraid. Let me take over. Let me be Andres Ibarra. You can rest down here, stay in the dark. It's peaceful once you stop fighting it. I turned and ran. Back through the tunnel, into the shaft chamber, to the ladder. I grabbed the rungs and started climbing. Below me, I heard footsteps, multiple sets, coming from all three tunnels, and voices, all my voice. Andres, wait. Andres, you forgot your equipment. Andres, the survey isn't complete. Andres, come back. We need to finish the work. I climbed, hand over hand, fast as I could manage, with the gear weight, 50 meters, 100 meters, 150 meters. The voices followed, echoing up the shaft. You can't leave us down here. Were you? You're abandoning yourself. Andres, please, don't make us come up. 200 meters, 250. My arms burned. My hands were cramping, but I kept climbing. At 280 meters, almost to the surface, I heard something below, climbing sounds, metal on metal, something on the ladder, coming up fast. I looked down, mistake. Three figures on the ladder below me, maybe 30 meters down, all wearing my face, all climbing in perfect unison, moving faster than humanly possible. I climbed harder, pushed through the burn, through the exhaustion. I reached the surface at 3:47 p.m., hauled myself out of the shaft, collapsed on the concrete, gasping. I looked back at the shaft entrance. Nothing emerged. I waited there for 10 minutes, watching the dark opening, listening. Nothing. Whatever they were, they stayed below. I gathered my surface equipment, threw it in my truck, and drove. Didn't lock the shaft door, didn't secure the site, just drove. I filed my report 3 days later. Structural instability, toxic gas pockets, unstable geology in lower levels, high risk, low reward, recommended against further exploration. All technically true. The lower level was unstable. There were risks. The reward wasn't worth it. Normark accepted my report, abandoned the project. The San Rafael mine was resealed permanently. That was 18 months ago. I still work as a surveyor, still go underground, but never alone anymore. I always bring a partner now. Sometimes two, and I avoid Sonora because 3 times in the last year I've seen myself. Once in Durango, working a copper survey, I was in a tunnel 200 meters down, and I saw a figure in a side passage. Same height, same build, wearing my clothes. My partner didn't see it, said the passage was empty. Once in Zacatecas, at a silver mine, I was reviewing maps in the surface office when I looked out the window and saw someone standing at the shaft entrance, wearing my face. When I blinked, it was gone. And once, 2 months ago, at my apartment in Chihuahua City, I came home after a week working up north, parked my truck, started walking to my building, saw myself standing on my balcony, looking down at me, wearing clothes I owned but wasn't wearing that day. I stood on the street, looking up at myself, looking down. It waved. I didn't go inside. I got in my truck and drove to a hotel, stayed there for 3 nights. When I finally went back to my apartment, everything was normal. Nothing disturbed. Nothing moved. But on my desk, I found a folder. Inside was a survey report, professional, complete, detailed, for a mine I'd never visited. In the section labeled Surveyor Notes, at the bottom of the last page, there was a handwritten line. Thank you for the lesson. I'll finish the work you started. In my handwriting, I don't know what it's doing. I don't know what it wants. But I know it learned me in that mine. Learned my face, my voice, my mannerisms, my professional habits, and now it's out there somewhere, being me when I'm not around, doing surveys I never conducted, filing reports I never wrote, living a version of my life I'm not living. If you work underground, especially in old mines, especially alone, pay attention to what you find down there. And if you see equipment that looks like yours, blueprints that match your tread, or someone working in a tunnel you haven't entered yet, don't investigate. Don't make contact. Don't let it see you long enough to study you. Because once it learns who you are, once it understands how you work, how you think, how you move through the world, it doesn't need you anymore. It can be you, and it can do your job better than you ever could because it's patient, it's thorough, and it never stops working. Everyone else turned back at the river crossing. I'm the only one who kept going. My name is Tomas Reyes. I'm a vaquero, working cattle ranches across Coahuila and Nuevo Leon for the last 23 years. I've driven herds through desert, mountains, and scrubland. I know how to read weather, read terrain, and read cattle. I know when a storm's coming 3 hours before it hits. I know which bulls will challenge you and which ones will follow. I know the difference between a cow that's tired and a cow that's sick. What I didn't know until October of 2022 is that there are some places you don't move cattle after dark, not because of predators or terrain, because of something else. Something the old vaqueros knew about but never explained to men like me who thought we'd seen everything. I was working for Rancho San Vicente, a large operation about 90 kilometers southwest of Monclova, Coahuila. The owner, Don Sebastian Garza, ran maybe 3,000 head of cattle across 20,000 hectares of high desert and grassland. I'd worked for him before, seasonal contracts, good pay, no problems. In October, he hired me to lead a drive. 150 head of cattle needed to move from a remote grazing area in the northern section of the ranch to the main compound in the south, about 40 kilometers. Normally, a 2 day drive with proper rest stops. I had a crew of four, experienced men, all of them. Roberto, 60 years old, been working cattle since he was 12. Paco and Javier, brothers, early 30s, tough as leather, and Fernando, youngest at 24 but smart, good with horses, good instincts. We started the drive on October 23rd, 2022, at dawn. The cattle were calm, well fed, in good condition. Weather was perfect cool morning, clear sky, light wind. We moved them south at a steady pace, keeping them together, rotating positions, working smoothly as a team. By mid-afternoon, we'd covered maybe 25 kilometers. The cattle were tired but manageable. We stopped at a good grazing area with water access, let them rest and feed while we ate lunch. We're making good time, I said to Roberto. If we push another 10 kilometers before dark, we can finish tomorrow morning. Roberto looked at the sky, calculating. What's the route? Follow the arroyo south, cross the Rio Sabinas at the ford, then it's straight shot to the compound. He frowned. The Sabinas crossing. What time would we hit it? Maybe 7 p.m., hour before full dark. He shook his head. No. We stop before the river, camp on this side, cross in the morning. Why? The ford is easy. Cattle can wait it this time of year. Not about the ford. Then what? He didn't answer right away, looked at the other men. Paco and Javier were nodding. Fernando looked confused, like me. The valley on the south side of the Sabinas. Roberto finally said, You don't move through there after sunset. Old rule. Older than this ranch. Older than Don Sebastian's grandfather. What's in the valley? Don't know. Never stayed to find out. But every vaquero who's worked this range knows you stop before the river if the sun's going down. I'd heard stories like this before. Every region has them. Haunted arroyos, cursed water holes, places where cattle won't graze or horses refuse to go. Usually just superstition based on old accidents or natural phenomena people didn't understand. Roberto, we're professional cattlemen. We're not going to let folklore slow us down. The cattle are in good shape. Weather's holding. We cross tonight. We deliver tomorrow morning. We get paid and go home. I'm not crossing that river after dark, Roberto said flatly. You want to push them through, you do it without me. I looked at the others. Paco shrugged. I'm with Roberto. We camp here, cross at dawn. Javier nodded. Same. Fernando looked uncertain. What exactly happens in the valley? Things that don't make sense, Roberto said. Cattle that scatter for no reason. Horses that bolt. Sounds that aren't animals. Shapes that move wrong. And people who cross after dark, sometimes they make it through. Sometimes they don't come out the same. That's vague as hell, I said. It's all anyone knows. Because the people who get specific, who see it clearly, who understand what it is, those are the ones who don't come back right. I made a decision. A stupid one. A proud one. Fine. You all camp here. I'll take the herd through myself. Meet you at the compound tomorrow. Tomas, Roberto started. I've driven cattle solo before. 150 head, calm herd, easy terrain. I don't need 4 men for this. It's not about the cattle. Then what's it about? Really? Give me something concrete. He just looked at me, tired, like he'd had this argument before with younger men who thought they knew better. Your choice, he said finally. But if you see something out there that doesn't make sense, something that looks wrong, don't try to understand it. Don't investigate. Just keep the cattle moving and get through fast. Sure, I said, not taking it seriously. I should have. I left them at 4 p.m. Got the cattle moving south, 150 head following my led horse, my two dogs, Lobo and Sombra, working the flanks. The cattle were cooperative, staying bunched, moving at a good pace. The terrain was typical Coahuila high desert, scrubland, mesquite, ocotillo, patches of grass, rocky soil. The arroyo we followed was dry, sandy bottom, easy walking. The afternoon sun was warm but not hot. Everything felt routine. I reached the Rio Sabinas at 6:45 p.m. The sun was low, maybe 30 minutes from setting. The river was exactly as I expected, shallow, maybe half a meter deep, slow current, sandy bottom, perfect ford. The cattle didn't want to cross. The lead cow stopped at the water's edge, milling, refusing to enter. I rode forward, pushed them, called to the dogs. Lobo and Sombra tried to move them, but the cattle resisted. This happens sometimes. Cattle are herd animals, cautious of water. You just need to get the first few across, and the rest follow. I dismounted, waded into the river myself, leading my horse, called to the led cows, showed them it was safe. Finally, one cow stepped in, then another, then the herd started crossing. It took 20 minutes to get all 150 head across. By the time the last cow climbed the south bank, the sun was touching the horizon. I mounted up and looked at the valley ahead. It was maybe 5 kilometers wide, stretching east and west as far as I could see. Flat grassland with scattered mesquite. The trail south was clear, well worn. I could see the whole route in the fading light. Nothing unusual, nothing threatening, just land. I moved the cattle forward into the valley. The first thing I noticed was the silence. No birds, no insects, no wind sound, just the cattle hooves and my horse and the dogs panting. Complete silence otherwise. The second thing I noticed was the temperature. It had been warm on the north side of the river. Here, it was cold. Not gradually cooling like normal sunset, just cold, like stepping into a freezer. My breath misted. The cattle's breath misted. In October, in Coahuila, that wasn't right. But I kept moving, pushed the cattle south, maybe 2 kilometers across the valley to go, 15 minutes at this pace. The sun dropped below the horizon. The light didn't fade gradually. It just stopped, like someone turned off a switch. Full dusk to near darkness in seconds. I pulled out my flashlight, LED, bright, fresh batteries, clicked it on. The beam looked wrong, like the light was being absorbed by the air itself. It only reached maybe 10 meters instead of the usual 50. The cattle were getting nervous. I could hear it in their sounds, lowing, restless movement. The dogs were whining. Easy, I called out. Keep moving. We're almost through. Then I heard the whistle, a shepherd's whistle, 2 sharp notes, the kind vaqueros use to signal each other, coming from my left, maybe 50 meters out. I turned my light that direction. Nothing, just darkness and grass. The whistle came again, same pattern, but from my right now. Then ahead of me, then behind, 4 different directions, same whistle pattern. Who's there? I called out. No answer. The cattle were spooked now, starting to mill, breaking formation. The dogs were barking, confused, looking in all directions. I needed to keep the herd together. That was priority. I rode to the front, got the lead cows moving again, called the dogs to work the flanks. The cattle moved, but reluctantly, bunched tight, scared. That's when I saw the first figure. standing in the grass ahead, maybe 30 meters away, silhouetted against the slightly lighter sky. Man-shaped, tall, wearing what looked like vaquero clothes, hat, jacket, standing completely still. "Hey," I called out. "You part of the ranch crew?" No response. I rode closer. 20 meters. 15. The figure didn't move. Didn't react. 10 meters. My light hit it fully. It was wearing my clothes, my exact outfit, same hat, same jacket, same colors, same build as me. But the proportions were wrong. Arms too long, legs bent at angles that didn't match human joints, and it had no face, just smooth skin where features should be. My horse reared. I controlled her, turned her away, looked back. The figure was gone. But now there were three more, scattered around the herd, standing in the grass, all wearing vaquero clothes, all wrong proportions, all faceless. The cattle panicked, started running, south, thankfully the direction I needed to go, but scattered, no longer bunched, just terrified animals fleeing. I let them run. Couldn't stop them anyway. Just tried to keep up, keep them generally together, keep moving south. The dogs stayed with me, running alongside my horse, barking at things I couldn't see. The figures kept pace. I'd see them in my peripheral vision, running alongside the herd, matching our speed exactly, never closer than 20 meters, never farther than 50. Four of them, then six, and more I lost count, all wearing vaquero clothes, all moving with that wrong jointed gait. One of them whistled, that same two-note pattern. Another one answered, different direction. Then they all started whistling, a chorus of shepherd calls coming from all around the stampeding herd. But underneath the whistles, I heard something else. My voice, easy, keep moving. We're almost through. My exact words from 5 minutes ago, coming from the figures running alongside us. Who's there? My voice, again, my inflection, my accent. They were repeating everything I'd said, playing it back, learning it. I focused on the cattle, kept my horse moving, didn't look at the figures, just watched for the south edge of the valley. How far had we come? 3 kilometers? 4? It should be close. But the valley seemed to stretch. Every time I thought we were near the edge, it extended farther, like the land itself was expanding. My horse stumbled, caught herself, but she was tiring. The cattle were tiring. We couldn't maintain this pace much longer. One of the figures moved closer, 20 meters, 15. I could see it more clearly now. It was trying to look like me. The proportions were getting better. The clothes fit better. It was learning, adjusting, becoming more accurate. It turned its head toward me. Where the face should be, there was now something, not a complete face, but the suggestion of features, eye sockets, a mouth shape, forming, developing, like clay being molded in real time. Another figure moved closer on the other side. This one had progressed further, almost had a complete face, generic features, not me yet, but getting there. They were racing each other, competing to become the most accurate copy. The cattle were slowing, exhausted. I couldn't push them farther. I made a decision. I pulled out my rope, circled the herd, got them to stop, bunched them together. The dogs helped, bringing in the stragglers. 150 head, more or less. Some might have scattered in the dark, but most were here. The figures stopped too, standing in a ring around us, maybe 30 of them now, all at different stages of development. Some still faceless, some with partial features, a few almost complete. They just stood there, watching, learning. My horse was trembling. Dogs were pressed against her legs, whining. The cattle were huddled together, silent now, too terrified to make sound. I sat on my horse in the center of the herd, surrounded by things that were trying to become me, and thought about Roberto's words. Don't try to understand it, just keep moving and get through fast. But I'd stopped, and now we were stationary, surrounded. I checked my watch, 7:53 p.m. I checked my GPS. It showed my location as fluctuating. The coordinates kept changing even though I wasn't moving. Like the valley itself was shifting position. I looked south, strained to see any landmark, any indication of where the valley ended. Nothing, just darkness. Think, be practical, assess the situation. The figures weren't attacking, weren't approaching closer than 15 meters. They were observing, studying, mimicking. They responded to sound the whistles, prove that they were learning my appearance, my voice, my mannerisms. What did they want? To replace me? To become me? To understand what I was? I didn't know, couldn't know, but I knew one thing. Staying here wouldn't help. I needed to move, keep the cattle moving, find the edge of this valley. I whistled to the dogs, started the cattle forward again. Slow walk, conserving energy. The figures moved with us, maintaining their distance. Circle formation, following our pace. Exactly. We walked for what felt like an hour. My watch said it was only 15 minutes. Time felt wrong here, stretched, elastic. The cattle were on autopilot now, just following the lead cow, too exhausted to resist. My horse was breathing hard, the dogs were flagging, and the figures were getting more defined. The ones closest to me now had complete faces, still generic, still not quite right, but human looking. Eyes, noses, mouths. One of them smiled, not a friendly smile, just a mechanical movement of lips, testing the expression, seeing how it worked. Another one tilted its head, studying my posture. The third one adjusted its hat, matching the angle of mine exactly. They were almost ready, almost perfect copies. Then what? What happened when they completed their transformation? Would they try to take my place? Would they attack? Would they just become me and I become irrelevant? I didn't want to find out. Move! I shouted at the cattle, kicked my horse into a trot. The herd lurched forward, faster now, not running, but moving with purpose. The figures matched our speed, still circling, still watching, but they were falling behind slightly, like they couldn't quite maintain the faster pace while still copying my movements. I pushed harder, got the cattle to a slow run. The figures fell farther behind. 20 meters, 30, 40. They were fading, losing definition, the faces becoming less clear. I kept the pressure on, drove the cattle south as hard as they could manage. And suddenly, I saw it, a fence line running east-west across the valley, the south boundary of the valley, the ranch's property fence, 200 meters ahead. I pushed the cattle toward it. They sensed something to safety, maybe, or just the end of this wrong place and ran harder. 100 meters, 50. The figures were gone. I looked back and the valley behind us was empty, just darkness and grass. 20 meters. The cattle hit the fence line and stopped. There was a gate. I dismounted, opened it, pushed the cattle through, counted them as they passed. 143 head. Lost 7 in the panic. Acceptable losses, given what we'd just been through. I brought my horse and dogs through last, closed the gate behind me, and the moment that gate latch clicked shut, everything changed. Normal temperature, normal sound, wind through grass, cattle breathing, distant coyote call, normal light, my flashlight beam reaching its full 50 meters. The valley behind me looked normal, just grassland, no figures, no wrongness, just land. I checked my GPS, coordinates were stable, accurate, showing I was exactly where I should be, 3 kilometers from the ranch compound. I walked the cattle the rest of the way, arrived at the compound at 9:30 p.m. Don Sebastian was there, waiting. Roberto and the others too. They'd arrived hours ago by truck, taking the long route around the valley. You made it, Roberto said, not surprised, just acknowledging. I did. You see them? Yes. How many? 30, maybe more. He nodded. That's more than usual. They're getting stronger, or more interested. What are they? Don't know. Nahuales, maybe. Skinwalkers. Things that learn shapes. They've been in that valley longer than anyone can remember. The old Kickapoo people who lived here before the Spanish. They knew about them, had rules. Never cross the valley after dark. Never stop if you're caught there. Never let them study you too long. They almost had complete faces, almost looked human. That's how it starts. They learn you, copy you, and if they get it right, if they become you perfectly, then what? Then they don't need to stay in the valley anymore. They can walk out, go anywhere, be anyone, as long as they learn someone well enough. I looked back toward the valley, dark horizon, quiet. You think any of them got me? Got it, right? Roberto shrugged. You're here. You're talking normal. You remember the drive. So either you're you, or you're one of them that copied you so well it thinks it's you. That's not comforting. Not meant to be. Just the truth. I worked the rest of the season at Rancho San Vicente, finished my contract in December, got paid, left, haven't been back. But sometimes, late at night, I wonder. I remember that valley, those figures, the way they studied me, learned my movements, my voice, my appearance. How do I know they didn't get it right? How do I know I'm the real Tomas Reyes and not something that learned to be him so perfectly it has all his memories, all his mannerisms, all his thoughts? I look in mirrors and I see myself. But would I know if I was seeing the copy instead of the original? I talk to my family and they don't notice anything different. But would they? If something became me completely, learned everything about how I think and act and speak, would there be any difference? I don't have answers. All I know is this. I'm doing the things Tomas Reyes would do. Working ranches, driving cattle, living his life. Maybe that's all that matters. Or maybe the real Tomas is still in that valley, standing in a ring with 30 other figures, all of them trying to learn how to be human, all of them practicing, getting better. And I'm the one that got it right, the one that learned him so well I walked out thinking I was him. I don't know. And that's the worst part, not knowing. If you work cattle, especially in northern Mexico, especially in Coahuila, pay attention to the old vaqueros when they tell you about places to avoid after dark. They're not being superstitious. They're not being cowardly. They're protecting you from places where the boundaries get thin, where things that aren't quite human study the people who pass through, learn them, copy them, and sometimes replace them. If you find yourself in a valley that feels wrong, where the temperature drops suddenly, where figures pace around your herd wearing clothes like yours, don't stop. Don't let them study you. Don't give them time to learn. Keep moving until you find a boundary, a fence, a river, a road. Cross it fast and don't look back. Because once they learn you completely, once they become you perfectly, there's no difference anymore between the copy and the original. You might make it out, but you'll never be completely sure which one you are.